Ladies and gentlemen, call the meeting to order. A couple of simple rules to start with. If you have phones, vibrate or shut them off if you don't mind, please. And just so people are aware, Councillor Pickard is on Zoom. I don't know if he's up there or not, but he's here. And,
I'm here.
Yep, is had surgery yesterday and isn't able to be here tonight. So, other than that, I think we're ready to go. This is a regular council meeting with apparently a delegation of interest. So let's get started. Need a motion to accept the agenda. Moved by Booker, seconded by Wade. Any additions or deletions from the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
That's great. Thanks, Jim. You can hear all right?
Yes. Speak
Okay.
up. Just speak up.
Yeah. Thanks for the reminder. Anybody that's speaking, whether it be for the committee of adjustment or for the delegations, when you use the microphone, make sure it's on. And also speak directly into it. Don't do like I do and wander away. So, okay. Group agenda. So any declaration of carry interest in the general nature thereof? Seeing none. Minutes of the June 3rd, 2025 meeting moved by Wade, seconded by emissions. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried. Business arising from the minutes of the June 3rd meeting, CL 36. Julie, please.
I don't have anything to add to the report unless there's any questions.
Any questions from council? Oops. Any questions from council on the report? Seeing none, do we have a mover?
No move.
Moved by Becker, seconded by Gillis. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried. First appointment tonight is Connor Brennan, asset management specialist, and Connor, you bring the final report for the asset management plans. And this thing shut off again, so we'll have to watch that.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council, for having me. My name is Connor Brennan. I'm from Oxford County. Yep, okay. I think when somebody hits the microphone, it turns off the other. Yeah, so Connor Brennan, Oxford County, through a shared service agreement. I've been helping with the asset management plan for the last year. And this is in conjunction with townships of Zora, Norwich, and Blandford Glen as well. So yeah, written the 2025 asset management plan. I was also here 2 weeks ago to go over the scenarios and to give council full 2.5 weeks to read everything over. So what we are doing today is, sorry, it's not advancing. Thank you. We are going over the Ontario Regulation 588-17 requirements, going over each of the appendices. We did already go over a number of them, so it'll be shorter for some, brief summary and next steps. Yeah, sorry, well, you're gonna have to go through. So yeah, the next slide, this is just a brief summary of the Ontario regulation. Again, we went over this 2 weeks ago. The main new parts for this asset management plan due July 1st, 2025 is the proposed level of service, the financial strategy for all assets, including the proposed performance over a 10-year period, as well as the natural assets. And then we are going to be doing an annual update to council, and this is a living document, and it will be updated for council each year, and as new prices or conditions or everything's updated, it will be updated throughout the year. Yeah, on to the next. So this is just a brief summary of each of the appendices that we have. The summary document has updated growth projections for the township, as well as the financial strategy for the overall asset management plan. Each of the appendices has inventory condition improvement opportunities, everything updated from last year's asset management plan, as well as the financial strategy section, which goes over 4 scenarios for each of the 6 main appendices. Based on 2025 budgeted reserve contributions, fully funded scenario based on average annual contribution, and then 2 other options generally based on specific condition target or percentage of funding. And next slide. And then this is just the overall summary of the township's assets. As you can see, 58% of the majority are from transportation services, which is mostly roads, as well as sidewalks, streetlights, and parking lots. And then, yeah, bridges. So the bridges, table 2.1.1 of the asset management plan in the bridges appendix. The average age for bridges is 57 years, and the anticipated useful life for bridges is 60 years. But this anticipated useful life is before rehabs. So bridges last between 79 and 104 years with rehabilitation, and culverts last between 65 and 85 years. So at the bottom, there are a number of critical bridges. A lot of those are being replaced or rehabilitated in the next 10 years. And overall, bridges and structural culverts are mostly similar in terms of overall replacement cost. Thank you. Scenario D in yellow was chosen, $378,000 annual investment. This appendix is overfunded in the near term, but the increase to reserves would mitigate risk and help to allocate the Canadian Community Building Fund and Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund grants to roads as needed. Any questions about bridges? Okay, so the next appendix is transportation. We went over the roads as part of the scenario over previous council meeting. This also includes streetlights, sidewalks, and parking lots as part of the transportation other scenario in the asset management plan. Conditions all there as well. Wanted to note gravel roads are operating costs as well as rural storms, so they're omitted from the financial strategy. And the urban storm fee that just went to council in the last couple of months wasn't built into the financial strategy for this asset management plan, and so urban storm will be included in the next asset management plan. And then, thank you. For roads, scenario C in green was chosen, which is $1.69 million in annual investments. This was done over a 50-year period due to complete gravel road replacements, cost being unknown. So we are building that into the next 2026 asset management plan, most of those base road replacements, will be after that period, after 2076. The bottom is the 10-year proposed investment level, which is an increase of $12,200 per year. To get to the investment level that staff had chosen. And if we go on to the next slide, the transportation other scenario C in green was chosen, which would be an increase to $49,000 in annual investment. This spikes in 2038 and 2068 or so are due to sidewalk replacements to fully funded, but because everything over the next 10 years is relatively stable, staff had chosen scenario C, which was 60% funding for at least the next 10 years. Any questions about transportation? Fire departments, fire stations, equipment and fleet. Everything looked pretty good here. We're deciding over the next, if you go to the next slide, well, next 10 years, even the next 20 years, everything is relatively the same. So we had chosen the status quo of scenario A, which is 74% fully funded currently. The spikes in the future mostly have to do with the station rehabilitation and in 2107 station replacements. But most of those are no different over the next 20 years. Any questions so far? Okay. Recreation scenario C had been chosen, which was 50% funded. We are currently at 39%. Park infrastructure and playgrounds have a lot of critical assets there, but these are all mostly assets that we run to failure based on a 10 or a 20-year range. Playgrounds are obviously safety oriented, so if they're ever seen to be failing, they will be replaced, but this is just an age-based condition and not based on their safety. In terms of the park buildings, or sorry, the community halls, they will start being replaced in 2058 in the system. This may be required earlier. Obviously, we're in one right now. And if they are required, if we go to the next, debenture funding would likely be needed. Okay, perfect. So you see the spike there in 2080s or so. That is due to the increase that would require debenture funding for replacing the community halls. And sorry for recreation. This is just a modest increase of $4,500 a year to get to the 60%, or sorry, the 50% fully funded scenario that staff had chosen. Any comments on recreation? For facilities, the transportation building is the majority, but the administration building currently in Durham Center has council about possible replacements for that. In the system right now, this is just a like-for-like replacement, so any funding beyond that would likely need to have some debenture funding as part of it. And if we go to the next slide, we go 2107 has a major spike in the fully funded, which is the replacement of the transportation building, just to the large cost of that. And then just a note here, the scenario C and scenario A and C, blue and red are exactly the same because scenario C and scenario D, yellow is exactly the same as the red, because the only difference is that it can't, both of them cannot replace the transportation building. So just by putting a bit more money into it, it wouldn't actually have any change in the asset replacement and the timing of that. So scenario C was chosen, which is a total of $114,000, which would be an increase of $9,000 per year over the next 10 years. And at the bottom, oh, sorry, if we go one back before, at the bottom, we can see the increase over the next 10 years, putting money away into the reserve for the replacement of the administration building as well as the other buildings in this annex. And then one other note, 2023, the development charges study had a new sand dome in 2033 coming online, so that it's factored into this. Any questions about facilities? Thank you. And then the next one is fleet and equipment. Garbage trucks as well as major equipment, and fleet per staff. If we go to the next slide, this is status quo. We're going to keep because we are currently funding 96% of this portfolio. So we're basically close to perfect. So continuing the current funding plans. Any questions about this one? Okay. The seventh appendix, the new one for this year, was the natural assets. So we had identified natural assets on township land and identified the programs and processes that impact these assets, as well as the impact and services they provide for our infrastructure in our township. Put this together, plan together with April Nix, the manager of planning policy, as well as number of county and township staff. And this map is just in red. Obviously it's small to see, but in red is the township owned lands. And then the legend on the right is a lot of the terrestrial natural assets that are on county owned lands, or sorry, township owned lands. And we also looked at aquatic and soil assets as well. And then just a note here that the Southwestern Ontario Orthophotography Project SWOOP is going to be doing updates. They are flying over in 2025, and all updates are going to be available for township staff and update the GIS next year. So we will have better understanding of our natural assets through that as well. Any questions about this one? Okay. Yeah, the AMP outcomes overall annual funding requirements is the basis for ensuring long-term financial sustainability well into the future. The annual funding requirements reviewed within each budget cycle, and this will be kind of an ongoing process. And just a note again that this asset management plan, accepting this today doesn't impact the budget, or it's not necessary to have the exact numbers, vision and commitments essentially on the budget. And the drawing of reserve balances, we're trying to increase what is put away into reserves. So we would have it to fund emergency or unplanned expenses as well. Next slide. And then just the summary documents. We are quite close to our annual investment requirements. This year it is a slight deficit just because of the increase on the bridges side. But again, we are trying to put more money away, particularly facilities. And if we go to next, the 0.6% levy increase based on the 2025 budget for the next year is just for putting away money, and a lot of that is due to inflation. Inflation is built into each year. Go to one more. And the improvement opportunities throughout, we're trying to increase data confidence, data gaps, asset gaps, and further enhance the risk profile for all the asset types, and working with software for the vendor for continued enhancements. And we are suggesting these figures are incorporated into 2026 budget planning, and obviously any of these changed as well, or increased or decreased based on council's decision. That is it for the asset management plan. Any questions?
Thanks, Connor. Any questions from council?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Connor, do I understand we're looking for another $1 million a year? Is that the bottom line?
Connor, do
Through the mayor, yes, councillor, we're looking for a 0.6 increase for next year. It's not $1 million. But we are looking for an increase and for each the appendices, each of those dollar figures are going up.
Did you get that, Jim?
Yeah, I got it. I'm just gonna ask him where the money's coming from.
So the 0.6 would be on the tax levy. 0.6 on our budget would be
Yes.
about $50,000. To fund the asset management plan to the recommended level would cost an additional $50,000 per year.
Yes, that's correct.
Any other questions? Sorry, go ahead, Jordan.
Yeah, through the mayor to you, Connor. 2 years ago, when this asset management plan was done, it was a third party that came in and did all that. Looking around and seeing what's good and what's bad, is that correct?
To my understanding, we did it last year. I'm not sure who did it before.
In 2023, in 2023, we were told that we had a facility in our township had a steel roof on it that was good for 40 years, which would take us to 2063. And this spring, we had to replace it. So all of a sudden, our roof that we were told was good for 40 years went down to 2 years. So it's hard to run a budget when all of a sudden professionals or the experts come in and say, it was good, this should be last you. And then when we actually went to do some insulation in the facility, we were told that before we do insulation, we need to replace the roof. So I just wondered if this has happened elsewhere throughout the county when some of these numbers are nowhere near what they were projected to be.
Yeah.
So that was done by a third party. It was a building condition assessment, which was separate from the work. That work was needed in order for us to plan for future capital investments for the facility. So that's the third party you're mentioning 2 years ago, was for the building condition assessment, BCA.
Yeah, just to add on that, but certainly sometimes they are correct and or underestimated the issues, and presumably the BCA consultant just wouldn't have seen the issue that ultimately came up there. But we do trust the overall numbers and do try to work with township staff and experts at the locations to adjust some of those numbers if they are under or overinflated.
Any other questions? Seeing none, Connor, my understanding is that by July 1st, we have to pass an asset management plan, which projects how much money is needed. But in fact, there's no teeth in it to say that you actually have to put that money aside. That'd be fairly accurate.
That is my understanding, but they do have some potential penalties of reducing or holding back some of the grant money through OSIP and CCBF. So I don't think anyone is. I think most people or most municipalities are all.
But technically, you don't have to. I think council would probably want to keep the assets up as well as they can, but just for clarity. And the other reason why asset not only is it good management, but the other reason for asset management plan is if you don't, you're not eligible for provincial or federal funding. So anything further from council? Motion is to receive the report and approve the 2025 asset management plan. Do you have a mover? Moved by Bookner, second by Durston, result council received report FIN 2025. Connor Brennan, asset management specialist, Oxford County, for information to improve the 2025 asset management plan. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, that's carried. Thank you very much, Connor, for all your work, and we'll no doubt see you again next year, if not before.
Yes, thank you.
Next one, not quite 7:05. For the public, we have a committee meeting at 7, which supposed to start on 7 or relatively close. Julie, can you do CL 38 in 4 minutes? I don't care either one.
We'll start with the first one, CL 37 Township Communication Tools. So this is a follow-up report for council following discussion that we had in January in our strategic planning session. Council gave some direction to staff to look into different communication options with the members of the public and suggest that we look into some different township app options or communication tools that may be available on people's smartphones. We have done that. We've looked, as I outlined in the report, we've looked at 3 different apps which could be considered. I noted in the report the fees are an annual subscription fee that's based on population, and all 3 of them range in cost between $7,500 to $10,000 a year. At this point, we have discussed this matter with county IT as well, and they are working with us on developing a township app at no cost to the township. And we're recommending at this point that we give this a try. We hope to have it up and running by the end of this year. We're currently kind of in the final stages of the layout of it before we can launch it. We'll also have the opportunity to send out notifications through the app, I understand, and we'll also have the opportunity to gauge how many people are actually using the app. And so maybe going into 2026, if council wants to look at a different option, we could do that. But at this time, we are just recommending that we continue to work with the county on this, and I hope to have something brought forward to council by the end of the summer.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Councilor.
I know, sitting on the engagement reform committee, and this is a real problem with the township is that we've tried numerous things, Facebook, Twitter, chat groups and stuff like that, and Facebook. And people still say they're not getting information, so we're trying as hard as we can, but people are not looking for the information. That's half the problem.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, is there a motion to accept the recommendation? Moved by Gillis, second by Thurston, result council township subdivision to report CL 37 2025 township communications tools, apps, options, and the pilot project as information. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, that's carried. We now have a committee of adjustment meeting, and need a motion. Sorry, right spot here. Need a motion going to committee of adjustment, moved by Way, second by Booker. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, that's carried. So for the audience, just so you know, we're not at the moment council, we're actually committee of adjustment. Looks like council, same people, it's just under the planning act, you have to do this, so that's what we're doing. And it's to hear a minor variance report. And we'll go through that process in just a few seconds when I get my computer to do what it's supposed to. Okay, so we're in the committee of adjustment, call the meeting to order. Motion to accept the agenda, moved by Dillo, second by Way, that the agenda for the June 17th meeting be received or be accepted. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried. Any declaration of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, minutes of the May 20th committee of adjustment, moved by Gillis, seconded by Thurston. Any errors or omissions in the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, that's carried. And we're now down to the minor variance application for Karen and Stephen Albright. Karen and Stephen here? They just can't see him, okay, come on up.
Hi, I'm Karen Albright and.
Oh, sit down, we'll get to that in just a minute, Karen.
Okay.
Okay, so, I'm not sure we've ever done this with you folks before, so we go through the planning process, I'll just explain what's gonna happen. So what happens is, Laurel over here, Senator Davies is going to, present the report. Council then has an opportunity to ask questions just for clarification. Then you have an opportunity to make any comments, whether you're in favor of the report, opposed to the report, anything that you think is right or wrong, or anything you want council to know. And then, we ask anyone in the public that wants to speak in favor of the report, anyone who wants to speak opposed to the report, and then council will deliberate, all right? Or sorry, committee of adjustment will deliberate. So, that's the process. Laurel, please.
Thank you, Mayor Mayberry, members of council, members of staff, members of the audience. I'm happy to present minor variance A0725S for Karen and Steve Albright. And before I start, I'd like to thank Karen and Steve for being so proactive and reaching out to us and having many discussions with us, and thank the building services team as well for working so closely with Karen and Steve on this. So the applicants are proposing to construct a new detached garage in approximately the same location as their existing garage, and to maintain the cargo container, which is currently located in the rear yard. And if you look at the map up on the screen, it shows the subject property outlined in red, the proposed garage, the existing house, and the existing cargo container. So the proposed garage would be in roughly the same location, just a little bit further to the north on the property, so a little bit larger. The applicants have proposed relief for two provisions of the zoning bylaw, so to permit a cargo container on the subject lands and to increase the maximum permitted lot coverage from 75 square meters to 136 meters to facilitate the construction of a new 121 square meter garage to replace the existing garage. The application pertains to 324071 Mount Elgin Road. Is located on the north side of Mount Elgin Road between Plain Line and Darren Line. The surrounding land uses, as you can see on the map, are residential to the east, west, and south of the property, and agricultural uses to the north, and there are some industrial uses to the northwest as well. The property is owned residential type 1 zone and designated settlement in the township's land use plan contained in Oxford County official plan. So as you know, when we have planning applications, we do circulate the applications to various agencies and departments for their comments. We also send out a public notice. So from the circulation, there were no comments, concerns, or questions received regarding this proposal. The public notice was provided on May 16th to surrounding property owners. I did not receive any questions or comments regarding the proposal. With respect to the way we analyze this request, is part of it is the proposed increase for the accessory structures, and part of the request was maintaining the cargo container. The township's bylaw permits cargo containers only in agricultural and industrial zones, but not in residential zones. When I spoke with Karen and Steve, they were not aware in the residential zone. To maintain the intent of the zoning bylaw, planning staff and building staff are recommending that we work with the owners to convert the cargo container to an accessory building, just to maintain the intent of the zoning bylaw. And that would be to the satisfaction of the chief building official, and Karen and Steve are happy with that condition, and we'll be working with township staff on that. Regarding the proposed increased lot area for accessory structures, they've requested relief from the maximum lot coverage. Again, for the construction of their new garage and to maintain the cargo container. And what they're looking for is approximately 8.5% of their lot area, where the maximum percentage is 10%. So what they're requesting right now is an increase of about 656 square feet over the current maximum. However, on June 3rd, council did approve increasing maximum lot coverages for accessory structures. And the maximum lot coverage for residential accessory structures in residential zones will be increased to 100 square meters or 1,076 square feet. So this application in that context would then represent only an increase of 385 square feet for accessory structures. So zoning provisions that you talked about for maximum lot coverage, the reason we have them is to ensure that we provide for adequate drainage, maintenance, access, amenity space, and to ensure that there's adequate privacy between the subject lands, the proposed development, and also that there's compatibility with adjacent uses and functions. These provisions are also intended to ensure that accessory structure remains secondary and subordinate to principal structures, and they don't create an undesirable situation for the development of the subject property or for the neighborhood. The proposed garage will be, as it shows on the map, will be in approximately the same location in the rear yard. And although the size of the new garage slightly exceeds the maximum gross floor area permitted, it will extend further into the rear yard. I'd like to note that the proposed garage is still set back from an Elgin Road and it's within the height maximum for accessory structures. It's my opinion that the location of massing will maintain compatibility with adjacent land uses and will not negatively impact vehicular traffic or neighboring properties. Staff is also of the opinion that the location of massing of the proposed garage will maintain a reasonable rear yard and that it will continue to allow for amenity space on the subject property and continuing compatibility. This lot is quite a bit deeper than surrounding lots in the neighborhood, and staff is of the opinion that the lot size is able to accommodate the increased request for accessory structures. Staff is of the opinion that the subject property, the request is reasonable and will allow for adequate drainage, maintenance, and access on the subject property. With respect to the official plan policies do permit accessory structures, and their proposal is consistent with the intent of the official plan regarding accessory structures and to be supported. In terms of my recommendation, it's the opinion of the planning office that the relief to increase the maximum permitted lot coverage from 75 square meters to 36 square meters is minor and maintains the general intent of the official plan and the zoning bylaw and can be given favorable consideration by the committee, subject to the condition that the cargo container is converted into an accessory structure to the satisfaction of the chief building official. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Questions from council? Yeah, one simple one then, how do you convert a cargo container into an accessory, like what's the intent there?
Through you, Mayor Mayberry, thank you for the question. The intent is to ensure that the structure is safe and there's integrity to the building. So converting it would ensure that it's attached appropriately to the subject lands and that there's structural integrity to it. Danielle, I'm not sure if you would be able to add any additional information about the process for converting it. It would depend, every situation would be different, but it would involve the building staff going to the subject property as well. Thank you.
Yeah, like Laura mentioned, we go on site, have a look at the manufacturing specs of it, and come up with a solution for the landowners to get a building permit for it.
Any questions? Any further questions? Councilor Williams.
Yeah, through the mayor, does this container need to be on a concrete base, gravel base? Does it just sit on the land, right down urban?
Hi, it is sitting on some 3/4 crush gravel.
Stone.
So, sorry.
Any other questions from council? Not seeing any. Now to the applicants, any comments you want to make? You've read the report, I'm assuming?
No, very good. If you have any other questions.
So you're satisfied with the recommendation of the report? Okay.
Yes.
All right, any? Okay, Karen. Okay. Anyone in the public want to speak in favor of the application? Anyone in the public want to speak opposed to the application? Seeing no one, it's back to committee of adjustment. And, what is this? Any further discussion from the committee of adjustment? So we need a decision, the recommendation is to approve, do we have a motion? Moved by Durston, seconded by Way, and the motion would be Councillor Durston. So recommended, Councillor Silva. Recommended. Recommended that the township, moved by Durston, seconded by Way, recommended the township Silva Officer Committee of Adjustment approve application file 80725S submitted by Karen and Steve Albright for lands described as part 11, section 4, Durham Township Silva Officer as it relates to relief from section 6113, table 6113, regulations for accessory uses to increase the maximum permitted lot coverage from 75 square meters to 136 square meters, subject to the following conditions, but the applicants obtain a building permit to convert the carpet container accessory structure to the satisfaction of the township chief building official. That's motion. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried. Go ahead.
Yes, so we will circulate the decision tomorrow. There is a 20-day appeal period and then moving forward from there.
So as long as nobody appeals within 20 days, you'd be able to come in and get a building permit. Okay, or start the process for building permit.
Thank you.
Okay. No problem. Need a motion. Motion to rise from the committee of adjustment. Moved by Gillis, second by Wade. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. We're back on the council. So it's now almost 7:15. Doug, do you want to come up, please? This is the presentation or the delegation for program. Just before you start, and for the audience, we have two delegations tonight. Delegations are allowed 10 minutes. The second delegation is two delegations combined, and so they will have 20 minutes between them. For the audience, it's the case of well, everybody has an opinion and an idea and would probably like to say something. Only the delegates can actually speak to council. If you want to say something to council, then we encourage you to see the clerk, Julie Middleton, and get a delegation at the next meeting. There's no interruption or whatever when someone has the floor, then you let them speak. When they're done, then we move on to the next delegation, or council can ask any questions they want. The other thing about a delegation is you don't have to answer the questions if you don't want. So the delegate, Doug, please.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, councilors, and staff, and guests. Thank you for having us tonight. This is our fifth time visiting you to update you on our progress on the wind farm. And I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Doug Dumering. I worked with ProWind for about the last year and a half. I've been in the wind business since 2002, and I have an engineering background. And I'm also a farmer. So I farm with my family near Drayton, Ontario, about 80 kilometers north of Woodstock. So I understand the value of ag land on a first-hand basis. So I'm going to talk about the need for new clean energy in Ontario. Going to describe our project and then update you on the engagement activities that we've been doing on the Bower Hill project, and then talk about next steps. Okay, so this information is all from the ISO, and Ontario needs new energy. So after years of stagnant demand, that's the blue line shown in the chart to the top right. energy demand is starting to uplift and is projected to continue to grow on a much higher basis going forward. For a significant 60 to 75% increase by 2050. Key drivers of that demand growth are data centers, industrial electrification, say of converting steel plants to electric, and EV plants. Overall growth of population in Ontario drives energy demand, so that's been growing quite significantly. Growth of greenhouse agriculture, particularly in the southwest, uses a lot of energy. Electrification of transportation with the EVs and also electric trains drives more demand, and also there's significant projected growth in the mining sector in Ontario. So Ontario has a clean grid, that's shown in the chart in the bottom right. All non-emitting sources, nuclear, hydro, wind, and solar, and biofuel. On the top one is gas and oil. And it used to be in 2019, well under 10% of the energy was from emitting source, and we're now up to in the 15-ish percentage of energy. So the use of emitting sources of energy has grown significantly. And so to address this, the IESO, Government of Ontario through the IESO, is planning to purchase more energy in the next 4 years. They'll be going out to buy energy from solar, wind, and gas, and any other source that wants to bid, pretty much. And this shows the terawatt hours, which is a measure of the energy. And just for context, 300 megawatts of wind would generate about a terawatt hour of energy in a year. So you can gauge that off that. So significant demand for more energy. So this is our project. We are proposing 6 turbines in Southwest Oxford, 2 3-turbine projects. So they will be, they're separate projects because they're connected separately. One will be north of the 401 near East Hill Line, and then one will be south of the 401 near Curry Road, just to the east of the eastbound en route on the 401. So why do we want to be there? These are great spots for distribution connected projects because we're right adjacent to the lines that we're going to connect to. So the interconnection is quite simple. We have easy access to the 401 to bring materials into the site. We're also, the 401 is a significant sound source, so being relatively near the 401 does mitigate sound impacts from the turbines. We're on relatively high ground, which is good for the wind resource. Wind resource is better on high ground. And we have designed the project to minimize the impact on ag land. We understand that there is good ag land in this area, and we have tried to minimize our use. Most of the use is through the roads, and we are fairly short roads, and it's noteworthy that these turbines are 3 times as big as the Guns Hill turbines in terms of their generated electricity. And so they only use slightly more land. So when you compare the amount of land used compared to the energy generated, it's significantly more efficient. But we expect overall impact to be well under an acre per turbine. So we do use ag land, we try to minimize it, and we try to work with the farmer to have the roads located where it's convenient. So ProWind is a German company, but we have been working in Oxford County for over a decade. We developed the Guns Hill project, which we built and then sold to some partners. 51% of that project is owned by Oxford Community Energy Co-op, and 10% by the Six Nations of the Grand River, and then 39% is retained by ProWind. So we've worked with the community, we're engaging with the community, and we also maintain a local office in downtown Woodstock. We've been working hard to engage with the community. We have been to council, this is our 5th time, as I mentioned. We distributed 200 information brochures in the area of the project. We've launched the component 1 of the Ag Impact Study. We posted documents on our website, and I have to apologize that due to a switchover of the German website, the links that we published don't currently work, but we have mitigated that by putting all the documents that we published on our Dropbox. And so on our Facebook page, you can find a link to those Dropbox. So we apologize for that inconsistency and availability of the information, but we were working hard to get the website back online. We're also active on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. We held 3 open houses at our existing turbines at Guns Hill, so people can get close to the turbines. We held a well-attended meeting at Folden's Hall on May 24th. We did a focus group meeting with members of the Christian Farmers of Ontario. And we have an additional community meeting planned in July as a result of the request at the May 24 meeting. We have responded to all the questions that we have received, and that's been published. And we are also communicating with the community via announcements in the Village Voice. Here's just a sampling of the topics that we addressed, so that were raised in the consultation. And we responded to all these questions in writing. Some of them are project specific, some of them are more general information about wind energy, and some express personal values and sentiment, and there's not necessarily an answer requested. In terms of where we are in the schedule, so this outlines the general outline of the project schedule on a high level. Originally, when we learned that the ISO wanted to buy more wind energy, we started looking for a site where there would be wind, available grid capacity to meet that demand from the ISO, and where there's space to meet the setbacks and sound requirements in the permitting parts in Ontario, and also where there's landowners that want to work with us. So I just went through the engagement that we're currently doing now and ongoing into the future. And all of that is to prepare for the bid that is expected to be submitted in October of this year. Or could be in subsequent years as well if we don't, if we're unsuccessful the first year. And then we are prepared for that. And then the next stage, if we are successful, we would proceed to project permitting, where we would then do detailed analysis of the birds, wetlands, noise, and then also do detailed engineering, including geotech, road design, foundation design, electrical design. And at that point, we would produce a package for the council that they would then approve, and the Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks would also have requirements that we submit to them, and they would provide approval as well. And so I just wanted to note that that is when the approval of the project happens at that point. And then if that's successful, then we would proceed to build the project and then operate it long term. Okay, so next steps, we're doing that preparation work to put together a bid for the ISO. And doing the agricultural impact assessment. And we're awaiting final details on the LT2 RFP requirements. Those documents have not been released yet, and we will be coming back to council at some time in the year. I just also want to note that there have been some materials that we think may be circulating that suggest that we're planning a 200 megawatt project in SWAT. We are not doing that. We are just proposing the 6 turbines that I have mentioned at the beginning. Finally, thank you all for your time on behalf of Helmut and myself, and also I joined 3 members of our team, Alex and Carr and Emily, who are in the front row with me. So I just want to thank you for your time. And if you have any questions, I would be happy to address them.
Thank you, that's exactly 10 minutes. So, don't see any, I've got a couple. So at the May 24th meeting, we were told that, or after the May 24th meeting, in fact, 2 weeks ago, tomorrow night, at a meeting in Beachville, we were told that one of the maps was incorrect and that it showed a turbine south of Curry Road. I didn't see the map, so I'm not sure. There,
That, so we are still looking at the exact micrositing of the turbines on Prairie Road, whether they'll three north of Prairie Road or whether one might be south of Prairie Road.
okay, there's a considerable concern about groundwater. I'm just wondering, do you actually drive piles into the ground, or are these just simply set on a go of cement and water belts?
The latter, there have been like groundwater concerns with the project in the Chatham-Kent area that is on a very different geology. Where they did drive piles through shale rock. And I don't know the details of what happened there, but that's very different than the geology here, where we're on very good soil for building on and no piles will be required. We will dig a like a 3 meter deep hole and then do a large concrete pad, and then that will taper towards the middle, and that will be the foundation.
Okay, these are larger towers than before. Or than at Gunsill, they were 2 meters or 6 meters. Can you tell me the surface area of the blades, is it 3 times as big, or I'm just curious?
So I don't have the data memorized, but so those turbines that are at Guns Hill are 100 meters in diameter. And so then these are roughly 162-ish, I think. So then what is that? I think it's like 2.4 times more swept area. Just with doing that math in my head. So like 1.6.
So, the reason I ask is that my understanding is it's the air moving across the blade that actually makes a noise.
So most of the noise in a wind turbine comes from the trailing edge of the turbine towards the outside, the end of the blades. So that's I'm not sure what you're getting at exactly.
Oh, sorry, what I was trying to understand was where the noise was coming from. The speed of the revolutions per minute of 160 diameter, 160 meter diameter blade as compared to the 100 meter. Is it going the same speed or slower?
Yeah, it will be the same speed. So most turbines, most commercially available wind turbines have approximately the same tip speed. So the linear speed at the end of the blade is very consistent between different turbines. So the bigger they get, the slower the RPM.
That was my understanding as well, it would be slower, okay. The other question I had was around the anticipated output of a 6 megawatt as compared to, I know it sounds silly, but is it 3 times what a 2 megawatt is?
This turbine will probably have a slightly lower capacity factor than the existing turbines, but it'll produce close to 3 times as much.
Okay, last question for me is, so you kind of described the timeline in your presentation. I'm just wondering, do you have a projected date or time when you think, and I'm thinking by month, not by actual meeting, when you would be looking for a municipal support resolution?
In the, hopefully this summer, yeah.
So summer as in June or July, August, or?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry.
The bid will be due in October, and we have that before the bid. So I would expect it to be in August myself, maybe July, TBD. Based on, we have to meet those certain prerequisites before we can come.
Okay, so the meeting in July is July 8th, and then in August is August 12th. So just so you know. Okay, any other questions from council? Not seeing any. Thanks very much, Doug. Whoops, thanks very much, Doug.
Thank you.
We'll eventually get this figured out. Okay, thanks, it's now Marlene and Wendell Johnson, and, if you don't mind coming up. Doesn't look like Wendell. Oh, come on up, sorry.
Fox here instead.
With the adults, so when I was asking to step in, I was originally supposed to do it, and I was supposed to be out of town for business, but that changed.
No problem, thanks, Dory, no problem at all. Just writing down the time here so I know when you start. Please take it away.
Okay, I'll speak fast because of time constraints here, but I call board, live on East Hill in Beachville. I've been a resident of Southwest Oxford for 20 years, and members of my family have been in that community for over 70 years. With me today is Marlene Van Ham. Marlene and her husband live and operate 2 cash crop and poultry farms in Southwest Oxford. They have been residents since moving here from Holland in 1988. Marlene is married to Arjun Kremers, local fire chief for Brownsville Station. They currently have 2 kids at the University of Guelph, who both have expressed a desire to take over the family farm. So, like Marlene, I'm here to do this for our community and for our children that I hope will reside here for decades to come. So, Mayor and members of council, thank you for the opportunity to make this presentation tonight. And we're here obviously to put forth our position that Southwest Oxford should be an unwilling host for a turbine project. We also want to thank members of council and that have taken the opportunity to attend some of the information meetings and hear from the residents directly. And I know there's been other forms of communication as well, so we thank you for that. The presentation you're about to see may have already been looked at by you since we submitted it ahead. Our views are really expressed as that they're generated by meeting with our members of council, of our neighbors, meeting with our neighbors. We've done some research on our own, extensive research, I would say, probably more or less like you have looked into this, like we never have in our lifetime. But during this period, we've done our best for the information that we're giving you tonight to be positions that are widely accepted. We're not trying to present to you some anomaly or some one-off view. When we did our research, we wanted to make sure that clearly there was an understanding in the community out there, whether it be the scientific community or otherwise, that what we're saying is accepted. So our comments are directed both at the Pro Wind Bower Hill project and at the PD project at Sea of Glass. So I'll just start. On the first slide, what we're going to be covering is the economics of the wind turbine, the loss of agricultural land, inadequate setbacks, what I think is a big issue of community impacts, and the reasons that we're asking to be declared an unwilling host. We have included some examples of resolutions in the back that other councils have used. So the economics of wind turbines, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this slide, but about 86% of Ontario energy is already clean sources of energy. So with the way that the Ontario government buys the energy from the suppliers, in this case, Pro Wind and WPD, there's a supplement to that. They pay more than the going rate. There's a contract and they pay higher amounts. And we're not sure how this makes sense. The main point of the slide is that the subsidies and the cost of producing this hydro at a greater rate than otherwise would be are passed on to taxpayers. Those taxpayers are us, and our kids, and in the future, our grandkids. So the economics of wind turbines, we know it's widely accepted that property values fall that aren't subject to the turbine. We know that the neighbor, the closer you are to it, the larger your property value can fall. So some of the reports we've seen have between 22 and 55% loss of property value. It certainly diminishes the amount of people that will even entertain looking at your house if while they're driving up to see your property, they come by a turbine or through a turbine project. It doesn't just result in a reduction of value, but also severely limits the amount of people that will be interested in property. Again, on the economic alternatives for wind turbines, there are other alternatives out there. There is an increase in demand that's going to come that's widely accepted, is acknowledged by everybody. There are other things that are being looked at. The Ontario government is looking at a hydro innovation fund where they're investing $30 million. There's other developing low carbon technology that may be used in the future, or maybe more economical to use. And recently we've seen the introduction of SMRs, that's been, you know, something that's been worked on probably for the last 10 years, but it looks like the Pickering site is gonna use that technology to keep operating rather than shut down the outdated site. So there are other alternatives. And the other thing of note, and is that there are a lot of people that aren't anti-turbine. I'm not anti-turbine. But the fact is, the energy they create is certainly when the wind is generating and that energy. Mostly at nighttime, a significant demand in energy. That's the way it was just framed. A significant demand in energy can't be met by a trickle of energy being put on the system. Even if we had tens of thousands of turbines, for those turbines to meet the need for a demand during peak periods, for all of the industries, all of the farming, all of our households, that demand cannot be met by wind turbine. It cannot. So in my view and in our view, if you're gonna have mass consumption, then you need mass production of energy. And that's what we need to be looking at and make it, yes, as green as possible, but there is no way, and you can't start your tractor with a trickle charger. You need a quick power boost to be able to start that vehicle. And that's the same here. The loss of agricultural land, and this is something that we've experienced even in our community in Beachville, is, you know, we saw some land rezoned over the years to be residential. And, you know, quite honestly, it's getting frustrating listening to farmers come and make a presentation that they wanna eliminate farmland, and they talk about how they're committed to farmland when it's them who wants to eliminate and repurpose the farmland. So that's just a point of frustration for myself, whether you want to turbine or not is your business. But we're losing about 319 acres of farmland a day in Ontario. 15 million acres of farmland has been lost in the last 50 years in Canada. 15 million. And eventually that's going to create food insecurity. It's going to eliminate our ability to buy local. And for me, it really is, are we really going to trade off produce hydro locally and source food globally? Doesn't make a lot of sense in my view, in our view. These are reflecting of the comments. I'm sorry I keep sitting on it, but these are reflective of the comments that were generated through our meetings. The loss of agricultural land is real. And, you know, with regards to the footprint of the turbines, the 2 megawatt turbines, it's widely accepted, have about 1.5 to 2 acres of footprint on the ground. The larger turbines are said to have as much as 3 acres per turbine. And again, I just don't know that, you know, we wanna make that trade-off and continue to eliminate that farmland. The inadequate setbacks. There are countries around the world that lead on this. There are countries around the world, and if you do read reports about how much energy they can generate, it's because for the most part, they have a large number of turbines compared to their population. We don't have that, and I don't think we're ever gonna have that. So a small little country with a massive amount of turbines certainly is gonna get more use out of it. We are a huge country. We're spread out far and wide, and we have a lot of demand. So the setbacks are supposed to mitigate the effects on the neighbors. They're supposed to mitigate the effects on the adjoining properties. And those setbacks are totally inadequate. You know, if you look at, I think in Ontario, it's a 500-meter setback from the next property or the next receptor, as they call it. But that's the same for the larger turbines that are the 6 megawatt turbines. It's the same. Farmers are bound by a minimum distance with separation requirements, even for their day-to-day operation, when it comes to facilities with respect to there has to be a variance, a distance, sorry, between any livestock, any area that has barns or manure operations. There has to be a setback for that. And there's a formula for that. And that formula is dependent on the size of the operation. And any farmer in here knows that a heck of a lot better than I do. But why doesn't that apply when it comes to turbine setbacks? So we feel, and there are all kinds of stats out there, and Canada is one of the lowest setbacks in all of the world. And we need to fix that. We need to address that if there are going to be turbines, at least to make them more acceptable. So I know I went through that rather quickly. I'm trying not to use up too much time, but I'm now going to turn it over to Marlene for her presentation.
Thank you. I'm going to be talking about
community impacts. What happens when, the discussion about, turbine starts, basically, this has been something that's been going on behind the scenes for about 3 to 5 years. The negotiations have been going on between landowners and the wind companies. It was definitely not a transparent process. It was not advertised, it was not talked about. It was definitely a lot of secrecy around who may or may not have signed up. There was not supposed to be any disclosure by the people who did sign contracts. Landowners that met with the wind companies were often told, you might as well not because your neighbor already did. So why not sign on the dotted line as well? By the time we became aware of it, it felt like, there was a whole discussion that had already taken place. And for the companies to say that they are transparent in all the steps, I feel that the last 3 years certainly have not been transparent. It has become a hot topic, obviously, in the community. And as you can see by the crowd behind me, there's a lot of people with a vested interest in the decisions with respect to the turbines. There's a lot of people that have a lot to lose on these. In economics, we call them externalities. An externality is when your action results in a detriment to you, to another person. So in this case, a farmer, let's assume it's a farmer putting up a turbine or allowing a wind company to put a turbine on his land, may reduce land property values of properties around that land, around that turbine. And that's just one of the things that has taken place. It's quickly becoming who signed up, why would they do that? How can they not ask us? The water is something that's been talked about. Chatham Kent is a real problem. I would argue that Southwest Oxford has a very wide range of how deep our groundwater is. I'm certainly no expert, but I know that some along the sea line are operating on sediments, which means that the aquifer is extremely shallow. So to lump sum, the entire township into one area to say we're probably gonna be okay, probably is not good enough. So in summary for the considerations, based upon all the information that we have shared, is there a real value and benefit for this turbine project for our community? Are the minimal benefits of wind power worth the fracturing of this community? Because it is absolutely dividing the community. It is not something that I want to see. I have had many, many discussions with many different people. And unfortunately, I've heard a lot of talk about the brainy farmers. And I quickly point out that I'm a farmer, so don't lump us all together. But that division is what I personally feel that needs to stop. Pushing this topic further down the road and leaving us hanging for the summer will just increase this discomfort, this angst in our community. Is it worth risking the loss of health and the quality of life experienced by others? We're asking we're asking you, council, to declare the township of Southwest Oxford an unwilling host.
So if people are talking, then they assume you're done speaking. I'm not assuming that.
No.
So I would ask people to wait till you're done. Thank you.
We'd actually not like that for my plan.
Wow. Thank you. The map that we're seeing here is the unwilling host declaration map. It shows that there's about 135 municipalities. We are surrounded by them. We're the little blue dot kind of surrounded by the red zones. Malahide made the decision just a week and a half ago. WPD project actually extends from Malahide into Southwest Oxford. But Malahide has taken a position last week. They beat us to the punch line. We were supposed to have a meeting there not tomorrow, 2 days from now. We canceled our delegation because they proactively declared themselves. There's a reason why all these municipalities are doing this. All these municipalities cannot be wrong in our minds. An unwilling host declaration formally indicates that a municipality does not support wind energy product developments within its borders. It prevents the issuance of a municipal support resolution, effectively stopping wind energy projects from proceeding through the process. A municipality may declare itself an unwilling host even if it has previously or currently hosted several wind projects in its boundaries, Malahide being one of those. Declarations are typically made based on a combination of documented evidence, technical studies, or community consultation. This declaration will not prevent Southwest Oxford from considering other alternative energy, nor will it prevent proponents from submitting the proposal. It serves as a symbolic gesture. That's what it does. It was mentioned, my husband is the fire chief. When the firefighters put up a road closed sign because the bridge washed out, it is a very clear signal to the public using that road that if you continue to go past this road sign, you might find yourself having to do a U-turn. That's exactly what this is. This is a road closed sign for the wind companies. The reasons that Malahide Township went ahead with the unwilling host declaration. The reason we're talking about this because it just happened last week. It's very, very hot off the press. It's very, very recent. They cited health and safety concerns. They cited environmental impacts, economic considerations, local control, and let's face it, documented community feedback. So we have provided several motions in the next few slides. I'm not going to be reading these through all the way because there's definitely a lot of information there that we provided several options for motions that could be presented today so that this can be put to bed and we can hopefully all move on and live our normal lives and maybe remove all the signs from our front yards. I'm gonna put it back to Bob. Thank you very much.
How much time do I have?
The 3 minutes.
Oh, 3 minutes, okay, I will.
Uh,
So over the past few months, we've been, talking about this as a community with our friends and neighbors and local representatives. This council event one day is gonna decide whether we're a host or an unwilling host. That decision is not just about today, it's about the future. 2 years from now, 2 decades from now, and most likely for the rest of the time, that decision will be visible or not visible, but that decision will be seen. That decision will have an impact. Turbines have an average shelf life of 20 to 30 years. Most fail long before that. They're not recycled, they're not reused. The farmland is rarely, if ever, returned to productive agricultural land. I'm 65 years old, in 20 years I'll be 85. My youngest grandchild was born last week, she'll be 20. My kids will be 50. And it'll be up to them to deal with what will be thousands of turbines in Ontario that are no longer functioning. It'll be up to them through their taxes, if the turbines are allowed to subsidize the rates of those turbines getting paid a higher rate. We believe, and the reason that we're here is there's overwhelming support for a non-willing host in all of our discussions. And we all know that those that are most affected and that profit most from anything are the strongest proponents of it. And I'm not blaming anyone for that, not blaming anyone for that at all. But someone who stands to gain the most from something, especially financially, is normally the strongest proponent. So what we need to say, and what we're asking this council in declaring an unwilling host, you're saying that we're farmland, that we had prime agricultural land yesterday. It's a farming community today, and it will continue to be one tomorrow. And again, we think that the decision here is gonna have an impact on everyone's future. And once again, we thank you for attending our meetings. We thank you for listening. I know you've been inundated with calls and emails, and we look forward to the decision coming in the nearest term possible, because this is on everyone's mind. And thank you very much for being on.
one more time back to me. I want to finish with saying that we trust that you, our council, our employees, will create an unwilling host resolution that is tailored to our specific community. And I would love to see one of those tabled tonight. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thanks, Unwilling for being there. Appreciate the presentation and sticking things up at the time. So, you'd be surprised, sometimes politicians don't do that. Questions from council or comments?
I'll go first, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Councillor Pickard.
The committees opposing the turbines have done a pretty amazing job, in my opinion, and I'd like to thank them. I've never seen Southwest Oxford come together like this. Both the south end and north end at the same time. They joined forces. I gotta say, my inbox is getting pretty full. I've had friends stopping by, friends calling me, neighbors, taxpayers, buddies. They're all telling me the same thing, that I was put in this position representing them, and they'd like our decisions to represent their wishes. That's part of the job of an elected official. And I tend to agree with that. I'm not sure how many contacts I've had, but a lot. More than 100. I'm still getting some just before the meeting tonight. And I really do apologize for not being there in person, but I've had some issues. I'd like to make a motion that SWOX become a non-willing host. Julie is going to read it for me, if you would.
Councillor Pickard, you just said you would like to make a motion and to finish that?
I'd like to make a motion that SWOX become a non-willing host. And Julie has prepared a motion for me. And I was hoping she would read it.
Okay, we'll wait just a second before we get to that. There was another comment, Councillor Buckner, please.
No. I think my ward is probably one of the ones that are most going to be affected by the WPD windmills. I've tried to keep an open mind. But the more I think about it, the more I think it's getting the cart before the horse. I think we need to have the storage of energy long before we put up a lot more of these windmills. There's lots more places where we could put these. Even in England now, they've got vertical turbines that they're putting in the middle of this freeways, because the wind of the trucks and traffic going by generates a large amount of energy. We got billions of feet of flat roofs between here and Toronto that could generate a lot of solar power, and the connections are right there. And there's a lot of abandoned industrial buildings that could be used for battery storage. The electrical hookups are already there. We just finished doing an asset management. The wear and tear on our roads to put these turbines up is gonna be astronomical. There goes that asset management right out the window. I would second Councillor Pickard's motion.
So now, we have a motion on the floor moved by Councillor Pickard, seconded by Councillor Buckner. And the motion would read, Councillor Pickard, your motion.
Julie's going to read it for me. She prepared the motion.
So whereas the township of Southwest Oxford is committed to safeguarding the health, safety, environment, agricultural integrity, and overall well-being of its residents, and whereas industrial wind turbine developments may negatively impact public health with reports of sleep disturbances, noise-related stress, and other adverse effects, property values, particularly in proximity to turbine installations, agricultural operations, including interference with crop production, livestock behavior, aerial spraying, and productive land use due to setbacks and access roads, water resources where construction may pose risk to groundwater, aquifers, and private wells, environmental ecosystems through disruption of wildlife habitats and migratory paths. And whereas the procurement of electrical energy is the responsibility of the province of Ontario, and whereas the current independent electricity system operator procurement process requires municipal support resolution before an application can proceed, yet provides municipalities with limited information about the full impacts of proposed energy projects at that stage. And whereas municipalities are not resourced with the technical expertise or capacity to responsibly assess long-term impacts on agriculture, health, and the environment prior to issuing a municipal support resolution. And whereas the current process mandates an agricultural impact assessment, it is not required until after the contract is issued, leaving municipalities to make premature decisions without adequate information. Therefore, be it resolved that the Township of Southwest Oxford declares itself an unwilling host for industrial wind turbine projects under the current provincial procurement framework, and that the township will not provide municipal support recommend resolutions for any such projects until the procurement process is revised to ensure that full natural health environmental impact assessments are completed prior to municipal endorsement. Municipalities are provided with adequate data, timelines, and consultation resources to make informed decisions. Local autonomy and planning authority are being fully respected in energy project approvals. And that this resolution be sent to the Premier of Ontario, the Minister of Energy, the Minister of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, the local MVP, and the Association of Municipalities Ontario. And further, that this resolution be made publicly available through the municipal website and local communication channels to ensure transparency and community awareness.
Okay. Sorry, so we have a motion on the floor, discussion on the motion. We didn't actually get around to questions or comments for these folks, but if you have questions or comments, that would be acceptable to Councillor Webb.
I'll call a point of order.
Just a quick comment. I appreciate the turnout tonight. Phenomenal turnout to the prevent both delegations for the turbines and against the turbines. You both have done great jobs. We have been presented with a ton of information in the last 6 months. I felt like I've read a novel. So great, kudos to everyone for all the phone calls, the emails. And you definitely have done your homework. Again, great job. Thank you for coming.
Any other comments? Councillor Dixon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm really pleased with the way things have turned out this evening because I've heard the people. I've read their letters, I've taken their phone calls, and I've listened. So with that, I just want to say thank you for attending and for all the work that you've done.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Gillis.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, I kind of echo Councillor Wade's comments. I appreciate everyone that has reached out to me and asked questions and given me some to think about. I think that no one here will be experts on this in the near future, but we've learned a lot in the last little while about many different things and a little bit about ourselves too and our community. So I appreciate, if anything, I take that from this. I appreciate that.
Anyone else? So Marlene and Bob, do you mind if I ask you a couple of questions? For transparency and all that. So I guess there's a couple of things that, and I realize that in asking these questions, there's going to be an assumption of guilt or whatever people blame for me. But I think if you don't actually ask the questions that should be asked, then you never get the answers you need. So let me start with this. In the north, we have a pretty, in the pro-wind area, we have a pretty good idea where at least 5 of the 6 towers are going to be. I think that would be a fair assessment. But in the south, Council as of today received absolutely zero information about numbers or locations of signed contracts for construction of wind towers, wind turbines, sorry. Do you have any information that is publicly available that says these people have signed a contract for construction, not an option to lease, but a contract for construction?
Publicly available, no. Nobody has released sites. Unfortunately, that community division is resulting in a lot of chatter and a lot of gossip and a whole lot of finger pointing. I personally do know several farmers who have signed contracts. They know how many they're gonna get. They know roughly where they're gonna go. They didn't tell me, but we do know that there are several farmers that we have confirmed have signed up because they've told us. So, but WPD has made no information public at all.
Okay, fair enough. Next question, or at least it's more of a comment, but in your presentation tonight, you referenced in the economics, the cost of wind. And so in fairness to the public, I think it's important to point out that the numbers that are in the presentation are based on 2018 Green Energy Act numbers. And today, the process under a new government or a different government and a different process is that it's a bid down process, not a, this is the price we're offering. And so the only way to win a contract would be actually to bid down, to be the lowest possible price. And so I think it's important that, and when according to the province, and I sat through 3 at least webinars by ASO, they said there is 0 subsidy for anybody. Now, I don't actually quite believe it because I think the fact that they pulled nuclear out suggests that maybe there is going to be a subsidy. Anyways, I think it's important for people to realize that, and I'm not trying to be one way or another on this, I'm just simply wanting to make sure that the public understands. And I think as council part of our global experience, understand. So in fact, you also alluded to the fact of property values. And I'm just wondering if you have any information from the Municipal Property Assessment Corporation impact that demonstrates the property values. And thank you.
No, we don't, and that is hard to find, and even in this environment where it's they're being considered, I know that some people were going out and trying to get assessments done and property assessments. The problem for that right now is that even with everything that's going on, property values in general are falling. It's hard to relate that, and I don't know if there's any experience in council helping that, so know what's actually happened there, but it's just, it's a moving target, I guess, to try to get data, but it is widely accepted, even to this one judge in here that you know, made a comment. This is the quote from the judge in the Superior Court Justice said it's widely acknowledged that even the announcement of a wind turbine project could reduce values by 25 to 55%. And that was in relation to the Prince Edward County. So it's just not something we can.
So I think in reality, as you say, there isn't actually any proof, even with the judge saying his opinion, and I'm not arguing at all. I think the public deserves to hear that there are a number of sides to the issue. I wanted to also ask you, you mentioned hydrogen, which is near and dear to my heart, because I actually think that's the direction we need to go. But how do you see us producing that hydrogen?
I am not an engineer. As a lay person, I know that's something that even for transportation, for vehicles and everything, that technology right now, as I understand it, is just cost prohibitive. And, you know, it is an option for the future, but, I'm, like I said, I'm not well versed in it, but I know that it's something in other areas, there's other things going on.
Right, well, I'm supportive of it, I would agree with it's cost prohibitive, but the way you decided in through electrolysis, which requires electricity, just.
Yeah.
Didn't fit.
Can I just make one comment? Sorry, coming back to your question about proof of reduction in property value. I happen to be an appraiser. So certainly if somebody wants to pay me. Search of the room to be here.
Right there from the record.
Appreciate your generosity. Okay, you also commented on the setbacks as being inadequate in Ontario right now. It's 550 meters, has been for a decade and a half. At least that I know of.
Yeah.
Just wondering, you said that was inadequate. I'm wondering what would be adequate in the public view, and I realize you can't speak with the public, but
Yeah.
That might be helpful.
Thank you. The setbacks, so Germany has a setback rule of 1,000 meters. Because in Germany, they don't build anything other than these bigger boys at this point in time. Denmark is probably the one with the most creative setback rules. So what they've done, they set a minimum of 4 times the height of the turbine, which in our case would be roughly 4 times 200 meters, which is 800 meters as a minimum. However, there's a second set of rules between 4 and 6 times the height. So now you're talking between 800 and 1,200 meters setback for this type of turbine. The rules are that if a property owner that is within that circle that you could draw around that turbine felt that their property value had diminished, they could have a research done, they could have an appraisal done to come up with the reduction in the property value due to the turbine. And the wind company would then have to pay out those damages. That's how you really should deal with when you're causing damages to a second party, you need to compensate. So they have a compensation rule in place. Now, in reality, what happens in Denmark, nobody builds them in that circle. It's a ginormous can of worms. You have no idea how many people are going to be going after damages. You have no idea what the volume would be. So what happens in Denmark is they're gonna go to 6 times the average height. So 6 times 200, 1,200 meters. If we apply to 1,200 meters, there will be no turbines.
Okay.
You also mentioned the water quality problems in Chatham Camp. And, so I think, so I would like to address that, you mentioned a report by, Dr. Keith Ben. Was quoted in your, presentation. Have you talked to Dr. Ben? Okay, so I did yesterday morning for an hour and a half. Very interesting gentleman. I can give you his phone number if you want. I'm sure you wouldn't mind. He raised a couple of issues. And then I also talked to the former medical officer of health for Chatham Camp, Dr. David Colby. And who's now a professor at Western in dentistry and medicine. And they had 2 very opposite views of the same situation around water quality. And so, excuse me, I'm just saying that no matter what you say, there's an equal and opposite other direction, right? And that's what I'm trying to present here. Or not present, but trying to signify here. And so then I talked to a counselor from Chatham Kent who actually lives in the North Kent area. And their comment was that they've had water problems forever. Dr. Ben says this has made it worse. Dr. Colby says it hasn't. So I don't know the answer. But I just think that it's important that that we address all issues and try and have a fair and honest conversation. Bob, you wanna say?
Only that it wasn't meant to be that that's the only opinion out there and that that's the only opinion we have. You know, these things have been around for a long time. I lived in Windsor for 25 years where there used to be 3 of them on the highway in Tilbury and now there's almost 200. So it's well suited, I think, what the effects are, and, you know, perhaps we could have more broadly quoted it, but we just didn't have the data, sorry.
So you have a copy of both this report and Dr. Colby's report, if I think I sent it from there. If anybody's interested, so, I guess the thing I was gonna mention, I'm just reading my notes here. You know, if you don't wanna stay, you're welcome to leave, but everybody has a right on council to raise the issues that should be raised, so that honest and accurate information is publicly available. You can choose to believe it or not, I don't care, actually. I guess the last, and I'll round it up here a little bit. In reading, slightly over 100 emails, so far, well, more than that now. I would say that probably, and I'll let the council, probably 90% were, maybe a little more than 90% were opposed, and in the last couple of these, there's been a generic, email from people, that, of saying, yes, right, so fair enough. But I'm just wondering if you could, give me a sort of a sense from your perspective as to what is the biggest issue for people, or what are the 2 or 3 biggest issues for people in the community? As far as, and there's, so in general, what have you heard, since you're representing, the audience?
Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. The reasons are diverse. They're as diverse as the community that's standing behind me. We have farmers, we have people living in villages, we have people living in residential properties next to farmers. Everybody has their own reasons. I think the reasons that we have given are very much shared by the community. That's why they're all here. We have this, I didn't have time for this in our presentation, but I have an envelope here that I will leave with council. There's 1,245 signatures right here. That's a big stack of paper. 1,245, and I have to say thank you to my lovely group of people that have put all their energy. People are very, very engaged. I mean, you have an engagement committee. This is engagement. It's absolutely blown my mind as to the level of engagement. And I do think everybody has their own personal reasons. Some, you know, feel that, well, my house is gonna be worth less. The next person says, I won't be able to sleep at night because of the noise. The next person says, I'm worried about my groundwater, and, you know, by the time the turbine's here, it's too late. It's already messed up. So, the 1,245 signatures, we basically used statistics. So statistics is something that we all get to use in university, and we hate these courses. But once in a while, they're very helpful. So we use these statistical calculations to extrapolate from larger population by using a representative random sampling. So what we did was, there was an area that we literally canvassed. And when I say canvassed, I mean door to door. Okay, these 2 lovely people went door to door in an area in Southwest Oxford. The entire area was a grid. They sampled 160 households. They rang the doorbell. 156 of those households said, "No, thank you" to the turbines. They are in opposition. 4 indicated, well, I don't really care. We'll call them ambivalent. This gives a 97.5% opposition. Using a statistical software calculation, this gives us a 95% confidence interval that between 95.1 and 99.9% of the broader population is in opposition.
Yeah.
Fair enough, and I think, without a shadow of a doubt, that the majority of people are not in favor. I'm not denying that, nor am I trying to, minimize that. But I think it's important to bring out all information. It's interesting because in the presentation tonight, and well, let me just back up for a second. Every decision made by council is really built on, in my mind, an economic impact to the community, an environmental impact to the community, and a social impact to the community. Those three pillars, or it's kind of like a three-legged stool, keep things balanced, they kind of gotta be the same. And so it's interesting because most of the comments made tonight were around economic or environmental. And I'm surprised there wasn't more comment around the social. And I think in all reality, I think it's a social. It's a social. So it is the social impact that is here tonight, right? This what it is.
Yes.
But it, and I'm respectful of that, I really am. But I think it's a case of, council has a responsibility to kind of balance those always in looking at any issue, whether it be, granting, an easement or not an easement, granting an exemption to a bylaw to allow a slightly bigger garage or anything else. We should look at all of those aspects constantly. And that's the role of council. So anyway.
Mayor, if I could just comment on that, just quickly. So Marlene did allude to it in her presentation about dividing the community, and part of my comments that I didn't use to try and stand with respect to time limits was that this decision will divide the community. It will immediately diminish, I think, the value of people see living in the property, living out in the country. I think it'll divide neighbor against neighbor, in some cases, family against family. I've got some history of this in my working life where the organization I worked for had a turbine. And there was nothing more divisive between that community and our organization than that. Anger, hundreds of thousands of noise complaints, all kinds of things, but that's big, and you know, I think that for me, not being a farmer, I think that, you know, we need to say clearly, farmers feed it, farmers grow it, farmers harvest it, and let's keep agricultural land, and let's keep doing that in this, so, but.
Okay, thank you. Anyone? So any other questions from council before, or, all right, let's get back to the discussion on the motion on the floor then. Councillor, it's your motion. Did you want to make any further comments?
No,
Councillor Book, you seconded. Did you want to make any further comments?
Just one that, we are right now in the middle of a health and well-being study and survey. And, if we went with the wind turbines instead of voting against it, I feel like, as our presenter has said, it would be very divisive for our communities. And I already hear a lot of angst.
Any other comments? This is on the motion directly. Councillor White.
I asked for a recorded vote.
Certainly can. Okay. Yes, go. So, my comment on the motion and not on wind turbines or not, my comment on the motion would be that the province has set out a particular process to go through. And that in nowhere in that process to have willing or unwilling hosts. But it says the council will receive or will have to have the initial agricultural impact assessment, which is really basically saying why here as compared to anywhere else. And terms of reference for the regular impact assessment and a report on consultation before they make any decision on, providing a, municipal support resolution. That's the rule by the province. My concern with the motion would be that it circumvents that system, that process that the province has set up. The president set it up, it was set up by the province. And I'm always a little leery when councils start changing the rules that they have no power to change. And I recognize that every municipality can choose to follow the rules or not, the same as everybody chooses to follow the speed signs or whatever on the roads or not. Anyways, having said that, any further questions, comments before we vote?
Can you actually say your name prior to voting, just so we know who everybody is? Not everybody maybe knows everyone on the council and who's who, please.
I'll leave that up to council, to decide whether they want to, it is before they vote. So what I'll do is for you is I'll actually ask the councillors, to respond, one at a time. I guess that's where Julie, could you do that? Okay, go ahead, Julie, please.
So Councillor Paul Buckner,
I vote yes.
Councillor Val.
Yes, I'm really helpful.
Councillor Valerie Durston,
I vote yes to be an unwilling vote.
Councillor George Way,
I support yes to be an unwilling vote.
Councillor Jim Pickard,
I vote yes.
Councillor Geddes,
I vote yes.
and David Mayberry.
Doesn't really matter how I vote, does it?
No, we don't.
Hold on, everyone.
So, I actually will vote no.
Yeah.
Only because I'll vote no, only because it's opposed to the process. And the municipality, should always uphold the rules of the land. In fact, we agree to that. And I got paid exactly the same amount you got paid. So, I don't appreciate that, but, I realize that people have the right to whatever they want to say, so, anyways, so I think it's pretty clear, 5-1 to vote, and, the township is an ongoing host. Thank you. Okay, let's get back to council on the business. So. Now, I'm starting for CL 38/2025, and Julie, please.
I don't have too much further to add to this report. This report is a follow-up report for council regarding the disposal of dead chickens, which are kept in residential zones. At the last meeting, when this was discussed, council requested that staff explore the option of composting as a disposal method. So I'm just reporting back, I have found that it would be considered against provincial regulation to encourage people to compost chickens. And I would be concerned about potential bylaw enforcement complaints that we would have if people were doing that in their backyards. There are options available, so as I outlined in the report, there are some pickup services available which people can reach out to. They can reach out to veterinary clinics as well. Some of these options are more costly than others, but there are other options that people can follow to dispose of them in accordance with provincial regulation. I also noted in here, I did speak with Hillside Animal Control, and we could consider when we update our agreement with them this year, a user fee for dropping off dead chickens. They do have a contract with a provider that will come and pick up kind of containers on a monthly or every other monthly basis. So that is an option. I would like in here that my recommendation is that we advise anyone that has received an exemption to keep chickens in residential zones of what the regulations are and what their options are, and then leave that up to them to make their own arrangements independently. However, if council would like me to explore the option of some kind of a user fee drop-off service with Hillside Animal Control, I can do that as well.
Any questions or comments from council? Councilor Booker, sorry.
I think it's, informative is probably the best way to go, but it's still whether they follow the rules or not, it's gonna be tough to enforce.
Any other questions or comments? But remember, Councilor Wade.
Yeah, I agree with Council Governor, this is gonna be an extremely hard thing to enforce. Like if someone was up in the morning and the chicken's dead, I can see them digging a hole in the flower bed and put the flower on top, who's gonna know any different, right? And they can replace that chicken on the same day. So it's gonna be extremely hard to enforce. The rules are there, we'll see how it goes.
Any other comments? Sorry. Any other comments? I guess, as much as anything, I appreciate this report in as much as it demonstrates that we're doing our due diligence as far as following up on what are the potential harms or side effects. And so I think it's a good report, and I'm glad to see it on the public record. So the question is anybody going to receive this information? I think that was, whoops. So I'm looking for a motion. Moved by Gillis, second by Bookner. Resolved, Council Township Subdivision to receive report CL 38/2025 follow-up disposal options for residentially kept chickens as information. Anything further on this? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, that's carried. We're now down to consent items, and it's 1 to 8. The motion on that, moved by Gillis, second by Wade. Come on, guys. You know, county council, the ward has one that he can shut everybody off with that. I think it's the priority button over there. He can shut everybody off. I never used it all the time as ward. But I always thought it was kind of fun to be able to, in the middle of the conversation. But now, Council Gillis has figured that out and do the same thing. So, I mean, anything in there that you wanted to remove for discussion? Councilor Bookner.
I don't think anything for discussion, it's just that as a conservation director, Bill Flag is kind of sticks in my craw.
Stick somewhere else for me, but I get stuck somewhere else. But anyways, I would simply say I think that it might be appropriate for the mayor and staff to write a letter in response to Bill 5. And I still haven't got my letter written to a strong mayor's power. But maybe by July 8th meeting, we could have samples that council would be willing to to endorse? Is that reasonable? Okay. Can we have a motion then to accept the consent agenda? Moved by Way, second by Gillis, that numbers 1 to 8 and consent agenda be received as information. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Yes,
Opposed? That's carried. Sorry, Councillor Pickard, I forgot to look at you. Did you have any comments on the consent agenda? Sorry.
no, I just,
No,
the
okay,
only,
thank you.
the only comment is the letter that Alex wrote there, Alex Innes. I thought it was very well done in defense of wind.
Okay, accounts payable. The motion here, moved by Bookner, second by Durston, resolved the following accounts be approved for payments, accounts payable for June 1st to June 14th, 2025, $49,950.18, payable number 12, general, $58,312.51 for total, $549,364.70. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Yes,
Opposed? That's carried. We're down to bylaws. The first one, number 11, or sorry, number 47 is to appoint Brownsville Whole Board. Do we have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Bookner, second by Gillis. And the bylaw will read.
So that the following bylaw be introduced and that be read first and second time, bylaw number 47, 2025, being a bylaw to appoint persons to the Brownsville Golf Board.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
yes,
Opposed? That's carried. And third and final reading, moved by
so move.
Wiz, seconded by Gillis, oh, sorry, seconded by Pickard. And the reading would be.
So that bylaw 47, 2025 be read a third time and finally passed, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the bylaw and fix the corporate seal.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye,
Opposed, that's carried. I'm down to notices of motion. Seeing none, new business, we didn't have any new business. Council Roundtable and Councilor Pickard, do you feel like telling us what's happening in Seaburg?
nothing going on here. We had a fish fry last weekend. We fed 500 people. So we're pretty happy about that. Minor balls in full swing. Using 2 diamonds, so that's paying off for us. Friday is Rural Oxford Economic Development. That's their AGM. It's in East Tavistock. So probably be dealing with that. And Rural Oxford wants to start. They want to write a new strategic plan. So that's coming our way as well. Otherwise, pretty good.
Okay, you're coming along well too.
I'm coming along. Yep. I actually did better tonight than I thought I would. I was tired all day. But I seem to rebound. So fatigue is the problem.
Okay, Councilor Dirksen, Ward 3.
Ward 3 is very quiet. One thing about the Selford Hall, sorry. Selford Hall, they're not meeting in August, and the new thing for this month is the airport. They're meeting visitors. And that'll be all.
Okay, and Ward 6.
Thank you. Not a whole lot going on. There is another car show coming up this Sunday at the museum. So be sure to bring your car, show it off, and you could be People's Choice winner like our own George Way was at the last car show. So, you know, there's lots of different prizes that can be won there. And it's a great time had by all. Other than that, Ward 6 is relatively quiet.
And Ward 1.
Not a whole lot going on. The craft show and the yard sale was very good success this year. There was a lot of, people who said it was one of the best they had in a while. And, we're still waiting on the Trillium grant, but not so much, so I guess all we have to do is just sit and wait.
And Ward 4.
One day in Fulham's this coming Saturday from 11 till 2. One day in Fulham's this Saturday from 11 till 2. The mayor will be there for the grand opening of the walking path at 12:30. And I believe Mitch Kirby will be taking up the speaking. So I'm unable to attend this Monday. I'm leaving for Prince Edward Island tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock, so I'll be gone 3 weeks.
But back to the 8th of July meeting.
I'll be back.
Okay. I didn't have a whole lot to report. I was gonna mention, the ROEDC AGM on Friday. Happens about the same time as the Federation of Agriculture bus tour, on Friday as well. I think it starts at 9:45 in the morning, and, I signed up for that. Anybody else that's interested, reach out to June Massey and, get your name on the bus, so. Other than that, I didn't have anything else, no closed session tonight, confirmation bylaw, we have a motion for the confirmation bylaw, moved by Bill, second by Buckner, and reading would be.
So that bylaw 48/2025 be read, sorry. That bylaw 48/2025 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council held Tuesday, June 17th, be read for second and third time the 17th day of June, and that the mayor and clerk are authorized to sign the bylaw and fix the seal.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, that's carried. And motion to adjourn, Councillor Buckner, or sorry, Councillor Pickard, were you moving
Yes.
the adjournment?
Adjourn.
Moved by Pickard, seconded by Durston. The council adjourned at 8:53 to meet again on July 8th at 9 AM. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, that's carried. Thanks, Jim. Good luck.